tell yours yet?
And we're on. All right, welcome everybody. Today is the 28th day of September, and this is our full council meeting. If you would stand as you're able to get the meeting started with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My understanding is that our fiscal officer, Mr. Prednoff, is unable to be here this evening, so I'm going to ask our administrator to do roll call for us.
Okay, Mr. Betcher.
Here.
Ms. Cheney.
Here.
Mr. Fisher.
Here.
Mr. Knipp.
Here.
Ms. Snyder.
Here.
And Mr. Van Hart is absent this evening.
Motion to excuse Mr. Van Hart.
Second.
All those in favor?
I'm sorry, who seconded? Thank you.
Great. Has everyone had an opportunity to look at the agenda? And if so, do I have a motion to adopt or adopt as amended if you have an amendment?
If I may make an announcement at the end of the meeting, I would appreciate
Sure.
it.
So who made the motion?
We refused it.
Make a motion to approve as amended.
For a second. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Don't have anyone that I see registered here to speak to council. Is that correct? Correct. All right. We have minutes to be approved. This was from the 12th council meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to view those who wish to do so? And if so, is there a motion to approve the minutes or to amend the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Is there-
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Who was there?
Yes. Wait, was it me?
Made the motion.
Yeah, I second.
All right, I've got a few announcements. First off, I wanted to thank Ms. Cheney and all the members of the Community Engagement Committee that helped make our 75th celebration a success. I wanted to especially thank the chair of our steering committee on that, Ms. Snyder, for helping me. And a couple announcements. The first is that I received an email about how Hamilton County does a hazardous products disposal day, and they've extended that to 2 days. It's going to be out in Cleves. You can bring, there's a whole list of basically those things you're not supposed to put in the trash can. All right. There's some things that you're not allowed to bring. Latex paint is one of the things that they're not accepting. There's computers, electronics. So anyway, I'm going to work with the administration towards getting an announcement about this put up on the website so you can see specifically what you can bring to this drop-off. They have not announced the specific location because they don't want people just showing up. You have to register ahead of time, and we'll have that link as well for everyone.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Cranston Computers for teachers will also take printers and computers and monitors. They don't seem to care how old they are.
Yeah.
They take them and they take the parts out of them and they
Yeah,
make.
they refurbish them.
Yeah,
It's a great
so
program
people could
for
do that too.
Right. Yeah,
I've done
exactly.
that with them.
So yeah, don't throw away anything that we can put to use for someone that's in need. If you have stuff that needs to go in the trash though, and computers is not one of those things that they accept, then this is a great opportunity for that. I'm excited to announce, and I haven't had the opportunity to discuss this with the administration, and I'm looking forward to doing that. We received a $5,500 grant for trees in the village. It will be dispensed to us within the next 30 days. My understanding is that this will be the approximate amount that we'll be getting yearly now for at least the next 3 or 4 years. So that's very
Nice.
exciting. And I am going to do a proclamation right now.
Could you do it at the end when someone is here?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Is that okay?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes, yes. And I think, there's some information, I haven't looked into it enough, but I wanted to put it out there in case anyone else is interested in looking into this. The vendor from whom we purchase playground equipment, their company is offering 100% match grant for playground equipment. So however much money you put into buying equipment from them, they'll match it 100% towards purchasing more. And we'd want to apply as soon as possible for that grant. There's a potential problem with it in that it doesn't list specifically municipalities. It does list park. I forget the word that they use for it, if they use boards or what how they stated that, and nonprofits. Now, I applied for the trees as a municipality, not as a nonprofit. So I don't know how that will work, but I'm thinking it's something that if anyone is interested in furthering the pursuit of playground equipment, that's something for us to look at, because that sounds like a pretty good deal.
Is there a preferential treatment, municipalities versus nonprofits?
On this particular list, the preference looks like to me that it would be for nonprofits because municipalities are not specifically listed.
Okay.
All right. I know that sometimes municipalities get away with saying they're essentially a nonprofit, and it depends on the, what all they're looking for. I know in the past we've submitted the IRS documentation that I've
And it's
got
grant
from the office.
specifically for playground equipment or the?
Specifically for playground equipment. Who is eligible? Any parks departments, schools, nonprofits, or other youth organizations are eligible for the playground equipment.
Is this what
So-
we used the first time that we purchased through
Yes.
them?
I-
Because there was something
Mhm.
similar,
There was a grant involved when we purchased the original, that equipment over there.
but it wasn't the matching grant we were getting through the county. They also offered something.
Correct.
Right,
The vendor.
right. And this is a matching grant from the vendor, not from the county.
That's,
Yeah.
we got both.
We got both
Did we get
last
both?
year,
Yeah,
okay.
or last time.
Would imagine that Gulf Manor Parks Department was the one
That did it.
that, I don't know, but I remember there being a grant from the vendor. It was
Yeah,
like $25,000 or
Something
something
like
like that.
It was in the form of a discount on the purchase.
Yeah, which
yeah.
I would imagine.
Right. That's what this would be as
Yeah.
well.
And is it through the end of the year, like on a rolling basis?
It's, no, it's specifically says kind of like first come, first serve, that it's a limited thing. Now, they may just be wanting people to apply quickly. I haven't, done the research to see if this is something that's up all year round. It just got emailed to me recently.
Cool.
But yeah, I'm excited to look into it, and if you are as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember when we bought that playground, but when we did that, there was definitely something from the county and from the.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, do you remember,
It was
because you pretty much had a
winter.
point on that as far as the costs and everything. Do you remember?
Yeah, the original cost of the unit was $140,000, I believe. And by the time they were done with the discounts, it was down under 100.
It's like 70.
Because we ended up using 50 from the county and the remaining 45 came from our ARPA funding. So we do still have some ARPA funding that we have not committed to. But then we go back to where do we put anything that we buy to go over there? So we need to have that discussion again.
Should we do it in community engagement the next meeting, or is that's too late? That's in October.
Well, there's a parks meeting coming up on October 9th.
It's October 20th now.
Oh, is it the 20th?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That might be a good place to begin some
Mhm.
talking about that. And again, anyone who's interested in beginning to do some research on that, and yeah, I welcome your.
I do have a procedural issue, question. When we have ideas for how we would like to spend some of the ARPA funds, what is the best way to push that forward? Just by making a motion in general council, or?
Talk to me.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
thinking a lot of times what it boils down to is recommendations from like community engagement, recommendations certainly from finance,
Mhm.
and recommendations from the administration. which those three kind of working together, I should be able to sort something out.
Because I just started working with Eric on doing our, can't think of what it's called. It's like a balance spreadsheet for
Mhm.
where the ARPA money is being used.
Okay.
Because we have to make a report, I think in April again. So time's ready to do that.
May I unofficially give my suggestion? Or put a bug in people's ears. I would really like to see the walking path finished. I think that if we were to do anything immediately in the park, I don't think that anyone who attends that meeting on the 20th would disagree.
So heard.
Shade.
What's that?
Shade.
Shade.
Yes.
People,
Uh-huh.
parents
Yeah.
are watching their kids run around in shade.
And I'm
Yes.
thinking trees.
Well, that helps with shade.
This is like
That's one of the one of the things specifically mentioned when I was writing up the grant was that what this was about. There's a number of things I can read that to anyone that's interested, but one of the specific things was getting more shade. We got I requested and received an estimate, or not an estimate. The county has their technology that tells you how much canopy your community has. All right. And we have 30.5% canopy. The recommended amount for environmental resiliency is 40%. All right. So if we were in the city of Cincinnati, we would have been granted assistance with this. We're not in the city of Cincinnati, so we're not granted assistance with this. That was part of my plea to.
Is there a designation between permanent canopy and temporary canopy? Because that tent's temporary. They might
Oh,
not-
it's like the tree canopy.
Tree
Oh,
canopy.
canopy.
Sorry. Yes.
There's a fun fact that when we first moved here, we planted trees between the sidewalk and the street. And we're quickly told that there is an ordinance in Gulf Manor that you cannot do that. And I think we need to go back and take a look at that.
Well, it's probably just, you can't plant trees in the right of way. That's what it would be. Yeah. So yeah, I'll certainly take a look at
And
it.
oddly, this community, when you take a look at this versus Lackland versus Fairfax, that's where most of the trees are, is in the right of way. So
Yeah, most communities, I think, are because the telephone lines.
Well, right, lots of,
Ours are behind the houses, aren't they?
No.
Mine
On
are.
On Vera they
On
are.
Vera
It's
they
one of
are.
the few places that it's planned really
Wealthy
well.
streets like we're on, yeah.
Well, streets.
we just have to
look at it.
consider that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's
So even if there's telephone wires above, I mean, we can specify the species and stuff like that.
yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
work to be done on this because one of the things in terms of sustainability is you want to have trees that are native to this area rather than ones that will, rather than ones that are invasive and rather than ones that won't be able to deal with the climate, even if there's slight changes in the climate, won't be able to survive it because they're just not from around here. They're from further south or something, or further north. So with that, actually, I'm going to read a proclamation that I have prepared for this evening, honoring Council Member Matthew Betcher. Whereas the leadership of Gulf Manor community depends on the dedication and commitment of residents who step forward to serve the village in voluntary and public service roles. And whereas Mr. Matthew Betcher has resided in Gulf Manor since 2015 and has chose to make it his home with his partner, Ivanto, and his dog, Rose. And whereas Mr. Betcher has served in various roles for the Village Council, being elected in 2017, and since serving as a member of the Fire Board Service Committee, the Planning Commission, the Finance Liaison to the Executive Committee, the Chair of the Finance Committee, and as Vice Mayor. And whereas Council is thankful for Mr. Betcher's intelligence, integrity, foresightedness, and experience from his distinguished career in private banking, which have also greatly contributed to matters of council discussion and decision-making and have enhanced the livability and culture of the community in so many ways. And whereas the village is appreciative to Mr. Betcher's family and friends in supporting him on this journey of public service, now therefore I, Stephen C. Densmore, Mayor of the Village of Golf Manor declared this Wednesday evening, September 28th, 2022, as Matthew Betcher Appreciation Night to celebrate his service to the Village of Golf Manor, Ohio, and to honor his character and example of leadership. I ask the community to join us in thanking Mr. Betcher and in no way limiting this show of appreciation to this evening for his many contributions to the Village of Golf Manor. Proclaim this 28th day of September 2022. Thank you, Mr. Betcher, for your service to the community.
Thank you. So do we get presents?
We will be,
Mr. Betcher Day.
Mr. Betcher has an announcement that he'll be making at the end of council this evening, and we'll be following up with some activities after that.
Do you want to do a motion to confirm?
Yes, let's. Do I have a motion to confirm this evening of appreciation?
So
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Without objection, I'll take that as unanimous. Thank you. All right, and with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Hirth for our
Okay.
administrative report.
So my favorite topic, not Matt Betcher, but road projects.
I'm in for
The administration, so it's that time. It's hard to believe, but we have worked through our road plan, 5-year road plan. We, with the announcement of the Hamel monies that we've secured, we've done our streets, well, potentially, that we plan to do. So it's time to take a look at that plan. We're preparing to make an adjustment, also to account for the delays that have been caused by the shortage of materials and some of the inflationary cost increase. We continue to prepare for the Canterbury, Englewood, and Weehee bid engineering as those are complete. And we're working to engage Greater Cincinnati Waterworks on the replacement of water lines and the impact on our projects financially. So we're hoping that we have an audience with Greater Cincinnati Waterworks, not next week, but the week after, which should put us in a position to be able to go out and bid that Elbrook project again. Engineering work on Hamel will begin sometime during the fall. We do continue to await the completion of the Vera Road project painting of the light poles. So we haven't forgotten, we just can't find a vendor to do it at this point. And we're planning to have a discussion. Strike that, that's a double line there, sorry about that. Next topic. Very happy finally to announce that we have a vendor for street maintenance for sweeping our streets on a regular basis. So this week we signed a contract to sweep our streets 3 times over the next 18 months. Oh, don't do that. What we plan to do is we will sweep the streets at the conclusion of the leaf season, and then we'll do it again at the end of spring next year, and then at the end of leaf season the following year. Hopefully that will put us in a rotation that we'll be doing the streets twice a year going forward. And the price isn't all that bad. It runs around $3,000 a session. That is the first step to maintaining our drainage system, because then next year what we'll be looking at doing is the properties that are south of Canterbury Piper, between Canterbury Piper and Langdon, we'll bring in Televac to take a look at cleaning out the various pipes there to take care of some of the, hopefully will help to alleviate some of the rainwater flooding that we've seen. On economic development, we continue to work on our 2 property acquisitions. We are still waiting for the largest one to complete his removal of the materials that are in his building, so nothing's going to get scheduled until that's done. I know Mr. Donlan will be in touch with him when he returns at the end of the week. We've been given an okay to go ahead and close on the bakery property. We're hoping to get that in this month, but because it all happened so late, we're at the end of the month closing period. So that will probably happen after the next council meeting on Wednesday, October 12th. So sometime during that week. Council may need to weigh in on some appropriations to make sure that we have money in the right place to make that closing, but that's exciting that is actually going to happen. with a strategic plan. The strategic plan keeps getting caught up in people being ill and COVID and personal tragedy. So hopefully next week, we'll be able to sit down with the mayor and have a review of what's been drafted. And then I've said this before, at the next council meeting, we hope to have this in front of council for their first review of the draft. So hang in there, it's coming. On the issue of personnel hiring, I wanted you to know that the administration is working closely with the chief and the police department on the screening of potential candidates for police officer positions. We are trying out a draft new system of including members of the community for meet and greet opportunities with officers that we have a definite interest in hiring. So the process will be the chief and his command staff will do the initial screening of candidates. Once they have candidates they feel comfortable with, they will come to the administration. I will interview them. And then concurrently with that, we will also have them meet with a panel of residents, not necessarily for an interview, but in a meet and greet type of environment to accomplish two things. One is to check the fit of the person in our community. Secondly is to do some sales work in terms of selling Golf Manor as a potential employer to this person or persons. We have someone coming in on Monday, October 3rd. I need 2 people at 5:30 p.m. to be a part of that process. I would invite council members to engage in this. I have a couple of other residents who have so what we're doing is trying to create a bench of 6 or 7 people who we only need 3 at a time who we can call and be able to pull different people to do this. The mayor is also invited to participate in this if he would like to also.
Good.
So I just need to know who can be here Monday at 5:30. Part of this is acting quickly as we get these candidates because they are highly sought after. And if we just can't let time pass by, and we have to act quickly to get high caliber folks. Let's see. My other favorite topic is cleaning out the basement. I've been talking about this for 4 years now. We have scheduled a specific clean out event for the basement that will take place in January. So we're going to have a shredding company here in addition to Hamilton County Auction to help us tag and classify things. Stay tuned, we'll have a specific date for that, but all help is appreciated if we want to get some volunteers here to help us take care of those. Celebration 75, another favorite topic, I think was a resounding success. It has been great to hear the feedback from the community. Ms. Snyder has graciously continued her involvement in hosting a debrief on the topic Thursday of this week. Actually, it's tomorrow at 9 a.m. So we invite you, if you have comments, pass those along to us either verbally or actually email would be better, or we'll also have a link out there via Zoom that you can join if you wish
What
to.
time did
9
you
a.m.
say? 9 a.m.?
9 a.m. tomorrow,
Yeah.
Thursday the
The email says
29th.
10.
It's 9.
Okay.
9 or 9:30? 9.
9.
Nice.
For season
Okay.
5 is 9.
Yeah, because it was just an extension of the previous meetings.
Okay.
Another thing, something really cool came out of that whole thing. The community art project turned out way better than I had expected it would. In fact, it's really kind of cool. I asked Paula this afternoon to lay the panels out in the hall. So if during another event that we might be having this evening, if you want to go back and take a look and see how this turned out. We haven't figured out how to mount them yet, but it is exactly what we were hoping to have. So that worked out well. I wanted to mention that I have asked the executive committee to participate in a review of our parking ordinances. I spoke to Mr. Van Hart about it this week. Part of this inspiration comes from our observations of the reduction in parking complaints that we've been getting on Vera Avenue since we striped the street. And I'll let the Chief Campbell, if you have any anecdotal stories about that, but it seems like the complaints have gone down. The street seems to be more orderly and easier to deal with.
Yeah, I would agree.
Thoughts?
No news is good news. So we've had fewer, neighbor disputes regarding parking, not so much, parking complaints, but I think it's working well.
So I've had some folks asking to do that on Short Elbrook and Short Fairways. I think before we get into the expense of striping more streets, though, it makes sense to take a look at our parking ordinances and make sure that we agree with what our ordinances say and be familiar with what they're supposed to be doing. Finally, UDF is leaving. I've talked to them finally again today. I must have misunderstood or they misstated. Something happened. But they did sell the property. My understanding was that they were leasing the property back to continue to run the UDF, but that is not the case. They are closing at midnight this Sunday, or at 11 o'clock, whatever it is. It's closing this Sunday, and they're reopening midday on Monday as a new business. It's being owned by an individual who is turning it into, it's supposed to be what it is, just not a part of UDF, offering the same kind of products. I spoke with UDF today and said to them, let's not be presumptuous. They really need to make a good introduction to the village. We would like to start off on a good foot with them. We'd like to meet them. We'd like to hear what their plans are for the site. If necessary, set up something with the Planning Commission. I asked Mr. Butler today to take a look at our ordinances to see what was required. I know, Rob, if you want to address that.
It's in the business overlay district. However, if it's the same use, they don't have to do anything. They don't have to make an application or anything. So we're gonna meet with them Friday.
Yes, so they're
And try
coming
to
here
verify.
Friday with a representative from UDF to talk about the transition. I really would have appreciated doing this a month ago because I think there's just all kinds of crazy stuff that's being said out there. From the villages buying the property to we're tearing it down and building basketball courts. Where did that come from? But anyway, I think we should look at this as an opportunity to build a relationship with a new business, and let's hope that we can get them to buy into what we stand for.
Great.
Unless there's questions, it's the end of my report.
Do you know if they're keeping the employees that are there now? Don't know.
No, I hope they continue to sell spirits, and I hope they continue to sell gasoline because we get income off of both of those. That would be a hit to our budget if they no longer do either of those.
Now, if they do not, this is the question for our solicitor here. If they are not going to, if we ask them on Friday if they're going to continue to sell spirits and are they going to continue to sell gasoline and they say no, is that a significant enough change in the use?
It is the use is a slippery term. If it's a convenience store that doesn't happen to sell spirits, I would probably have to say, no, that's not enough. Now, if they don't sell gas, yeah, I think that's a material change in the way they do business. It's kind of one of those things that you know it when you see it, when they've made a big enough change. But that is always the difficulty with a new business in a business overlay district is, of course, no matter what, they're saying we don't have to apply because we're doing the exact same thing. I can't remember, there was a business here in Gulf Manor several years ago, we had to deal with that. But again, we'll know it when we see it. I think, if they eliminate selling gas, I think that's a significant enough change.
Right.
Spirit's not enough. I mean, one product
Right.
not selling it is probably not enough.
My understanding from the email was that the reason why they're not opening until the afternoon on Monday is because they still have signing that they need to do that morning for the final sale of it. And I was curious as to whether that would be influenced by a conversation on Friday about you're changing your stuff
I guess we'll
and
see.
you've got to meet with us.
Well, I think it's gonna be made clear to them that they're in a business overlay district, that they have to make an application if they're changing the nature of their business, amongst some other things we'll talk about.
Great. Any other questions
Yeah,
concerning this?
If they
or-
don't sell gas, they have to take the gas pumps out, or they can.
Actually, I don't think they have to. I mean,
Wow.
yeah, I think they could just shut them down.
Rob, what about lottery or Keno or anything like that?
Or do they do that now? Or if they start doing that? That I think there's some additional regulations if they're gonna do that, so that might cause us to have to do it. I've got a feeling for the nature of the business that's going in there. We talked about, and we'll just need to stay on it. I'll just put it that way, to make sure that it doesn't become that it, as Ron said, that it's in kind of in the best interest of the village. I mean, we can't do anything about them selling it. They go to business, but we have to keep on them to make sure that if they're going to change the business, we have some control over it, because that is in our business overlay district. And the whole idea is that we have additional control there. It's another layer of zoning to make sure that we can, again, control the business somewhat, to make sure that it's not something, it's kind of the best foot forward. And I really, if you look at that, that's kind of, people come right into the village right there. It's on the right side. It's, one of the first things they see. So I'll just leave it at that. We need to stay on it. If they sell Keno tickets, if they sell lottery tickets, if they're discontinue the gas, if they, again, I have a good feeling for what we might be dealing with, and we'll just need to stay on it. Because as soon as it is on us, as soon as we see that they're not, that it's change in use, we have to go and have them, convince them they need to submit a application to planning, and then we can direct them and kind of control some of the things they do.
Any other questions? And if not, I recognize that our fiscal officer is not here this evening to give the fiscal report. I'm wondering, Mr. Herf, are you able to?
So who was not here during the finance meeting? So one thing I'll make you aware of, I won't go through that whole thing because I read the narrative out of the report.
I misunderstood the question.
So short answer, we were all here for finance.
This is the fiscal officer report.
So just some highlights for the fiscal officer report for the evening. We had a combined bank balance of $3,879,617 for the month of August fiscal year 22. Of that amount, $3,770,322 was in our village primary checking accounts, while the balance resides in several village dedicated funds. So if you'll remember, as we've talked previously, a lot of that money is sitting there for road projects that has already been committed. The village generated in revenue $58,538 in general fund income receipts, which turned out to be $14,662 less than August of the previous year. Part of that is attributed to the fact that 2020 and 2021 were kind of strange years in terms of collections because of the delay in process, and then also with various offices of the county being closed. So the numbers overall for the year brings us at $17,781 more than what we generated in fiscal year 22 overall. So we're on track to beat last year's revenue, which is the story there. 27 payments were made in August, totaling $677,000. $677,411. 427,614 of that was accounted for from the village's general fund. And then, let's see, the largest payees for the month of August were payroll. Deer Park Silverton, our contract for fire services, the Ohio Police and Fire Pension Fund, Rumpke, and then OPERS, the other employee retirement system, which tend on a month-to-month basis be our largest expenses. That is the
Great.
Reader's Digest condensed version.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions concerning that report? I want to,
So if you wish to read more detail about that, just look at the financial pack and the whole verbiage is in there with all the charts.
I want to thank our fiscal officer, Eric Freidenoff, for the clarity of that report. That's, if you haven't had a chance to look at that, that's laid out really well. And I'm sure we all appreciate that. If there are no other questions, I'll ask Chief Campbell for his report.
Oh, do we want to accept the report?
Oh, yes, I apologize. Do I have a motion to accept the fiscal officer's report?
Motion to accept.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Without objection, I'll take that as unanimous. Thank you. Chief Campbell.
Yeah, I'm going to be brief so we can get to Mr. Betcher's announcement. I have an activity report for the month of August. The police department responded to 274 calls for service. Number was a little down, I think, due to some officer injuries and our staffing issue we're working with. Speaking of the staffing issue, we have 2 people that we anticipate being able to bring on next month as long as everything goes well. That'll help, and we'll see our calls increase because there'll be more officer-initiated activity. I also sent out the citation report that kind of breaks down the types of citations the officers are issuing. I think you guys all had a chance to see that. And then our training was also down because we had a lot of training scheduled here that we had to cancel for various reasons. So, but there was training conducted in ethics and professionalism and background investigations. Lieutenant Forrest is still on light duty, so the K-9 is not being utilized. K-9 actually tweaked a muscle and he's resting as well. So they keep each other company. And then the flock camera, we recovered another stolen vehicle, and there was a felony warrant arrest out of those vehicles as well. And I'm seeing in the last week, several stolen vehicles have come through this area. It's related to the Hyundais and Kias that you heard about. Most of them have been Hyundais or Kias that have come through.
How many recoveries of stolen vehicles now attributed to that camera system? It seems like there's one a month.
We've had months with 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I think we're over 10, and then some of them we stopped and there's a passenger that's a wanted felon from another state and a weapon in the car, things like that. So we're seeing a lot of dividends from these. And unless there's any other questions, that's all I have.
Those handles are kids you recovered.
What's that?
Those handles are kids. You said you had 10 of them and only one recovered.
No, we've recovered. I'm comfortable saying we've recovered over 10 stolen vehicles. There's probably been more felony arrests related to those contacts with those vehicles.
All right, great. Thank you, Chief Campbell. Any other questions? Now I'll turn it over to Mr. Butler for solicitors.
Thank you. There's 2 pieces of legislation. The first is ordinance 20229 regarding temporary storage containers, dumpsters, and portable toilets. We addressed this in earlier. There's one amendment that the committee decided to make to it, which is to add language regarding extending or getting additional time to keep whatever item is that you want to have on the premises, whether it be a dumpster or a portable toilet or a storage container, we're gonna add some language in that allows them to request additional time through the administration or an additional time frame. Other than that, and then gives the administration the discretion to grant or deny that extension. Other than that, there were no changes to the ordinance. So can I get a motion to read by title only?
So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Ordinance number 2022-9, an ordinance establishing regulations for temporary storage containers, dumpsters, and portable toilets in residential districts. So discussion.
This is a first reading.
Well, I was going to get to that. You have the option. This is a zoning ordinance, so we can't pass it by emergency. However, you could suspend the rules requiring 3 readings, which would allow it to become effective in 30 days, or make this the first reading and then do the second and third. But again, to make this, to waive the second, third reading, you do need to suspend the rules.
Yeah, and we need to have a roll call vote voting to suspend the rules. Unless there is an objection, and unless anybody feels differently, I'm thinking it is, if there is no emergency to pass this quickly, it serves the village well to have the opportunity to be able to read through it and know what's happening over the course of 3 readings. Is there any disagreement or any concerns that needs to be passed sooner?
I would prefer to not wait for 3 readings, because that takes us into November before we get, no, it's 30 days after that. Yeah, so it'll be
Well,
December.
right. I mean, you could certainly amend the third, or you could waive the third reading and at least kind of as a middle ground. We come back, we'll have the additional language in it, and you could amend waive the third reading in the next meeting if you want, if you're concerned with time.
So you could pass it within 2 readings, and then it would still be 30 days to take effect.
Correct.
Any discussion?
I tend to agree with the mayor. I mean, that process is in place to kind of give the public a chance to look at it. And then anything on the ground now, as far as storage and dumpsters, would be grandfathered in anyway, wouldn't it? So it's not like we can push anybody.
No, you're right.
It's
Anything on the ground
currently
now.
An eyesore.
Correct.
So,
Well, yeah, there might be other ordinances that would cover those things,
Yeah.
but you couldn't
Could use this one.
use this one.
So keep in mind, we had a public hearing on this evening, and there were no attendees. So
it doesn't sound like we have any major pending problems, so.
Well, we do have some out there, don't we, that are issues?
They would be grandfathered in.
Yeah,
Oh, the
I'm
grandfathered in.
aware of one that's sitting over a sidewalk right now. And I think Mr. Putoff was intending that when this passes, probably be gone by the time we get through this, but he would post it and make sure that they were aware that this was coming, but there would be no immediate penalty. They just need to conform with the ordinance once the ordinance passes. I personally don't see a rush to deal with this. And I think the language that has been suggested added to this, I think we just need to make sure that that's right.
I agree with that. I've explained the way it's going, what we're looking for, but the devil may be in the details. So it'd probably be a good idea if council have an opportunity to look at that before they pass it. And
I think it may make
next time.
sense once we get to that second reading. If everybody's happy with it, then we can do
Waive
our
the
thing
third
then.
reading.
Any other further discussion?
Yeah, just one point, we discussed earlier that there will be, and I see it's not written in the ordinance now, is to also add in that you can ask for permission to put it on a public parking spot if needed. Couldn't find it in there now, because I was reading it too fast.
No, I don't think that's in there. I think you're correct.
And we should add those 2 points at one point, that they could extend it another 14 days if they need to, by coming and getting permission, or to get permission to put it on a public property if they cannot do it on a private.
So I recall there having been discussion about that,
Yeah, but it's not written.
in planning commission, and there was some discussion that if someone did request to have it sitting on the street, that there would be a,
Variance.
not necessarily a variance, I think a fee. We talked about that.
They would have to go before the planning commission as, and go through the hearing process as a variance.
Well, because this
To
is,
sit on the street.
Yeah.
To sit on the street.
this is a zoning ordinance. Now, if it's in there, then it wouldn't be a variance. If the language is in there already,
It would be a language that they would have to get permission. It's not
Right.
just something they could do.
right,
They'd have
but
to
they
get
wouldn't have to go through zoning.
And the intent was that if people wanted them on the street, we wanted them to go through that
Yeah,
process.
I understand what you're
Okay.
saying. I understand what you're saying. I mean, it's council's pleasure if it goes in or out, but if it's not in, then it goes through zoning. If it's in, then it's simply a matter of administratively, they'd have to come and ask for permission.
So, Mr. Simile, your recollection is that the decision of the planning commission was that they would prefer that to go through a variance process if
That
someone wanted to do
That
that?
was our recommendation.
Okay.
That way, there was an opportunity to evaluate the specific situation of it and set guidelines around that specific situation as a requirement as far as
Right.
getting the variation.
So, and Mr. Fisher, you were saying your recollection of it was that there was going to be some language
No,
written
no.
into it or no?
I was not at the planning commission. I'm just
Okay,
suggesting when we spoke earlier today at the public meeting,
okay.
I suggested that there are certain times that you need to put it onto the street. And that it doesn't ruin the street as we did discuss in the past, because I looked into it, it does not.
If
The way
it's done
placed,
properly,
it's placed
right.
down, these pods are placed properly. And Ron answered to that there will be in the ordinance that to people, whoever needs can do it in private property, will be able to ask administration for permission. So I was suggesting to put that in the ordinance as.
And that was just specifically for pods, correct?
Only for, right, not for construction.
Not for dumpsters.
Not for dumpsters, only for pods.
Mhm.
What I'm saying is people move in, it's usually there for a week. And if sometimes there's no room to put it into private property and they could come in for administration, ask for permission, get permission and put it on, instead of waiting for the next, they're moving in, right? Instead of waiting for the next planning commission, get onto there and discuss the whole thing. It would be much easier if they could have a conversation with administration tell them A, B, and C, yeah, A, B, and C, no, this has to do, this not. Go ahead, put it down for 2 days, 1 day, 3 days, a week, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just to have that option.
That sounds reasonable. Is there further discussion on that? Do we want to make the recommendation to Mr. Butler to include such language?
I think it makes sense.
Okay.
Just from a standpoint, that people are moving in and to wait for a bureaucratic process to get on with their lives would be a pain.
I just don't think.
I would like to measure
comfortable
that.
So,
I would
But
like to
I
measure
do
balance
agree
that.
that if it's any other one of anything besides for the pods, then it should go through the regular system.
Agreed,
If it's
because those things
construction,
consistent with
if it's just a pod, those ones are actually put down very nicely.
It does.
Okay.
I would agree with that, because I think what Steve said makes a lot of sense. If somebody's just gonna put a construction dumpster out there, they tend
Yeah.
to
When
stay
you-
there forever, and there's pods. They typically contracted to be taken back once they're empty within a specified amount of time. So maybe we can make a mention just for specific move in, move out pods, and then let the construction.
When you say pod, have you read this?
It does not say the word pod.
No, it does not.
It
So
should.
well, I'm sure you have in your mind what of these
A temporary.
temporary storage container?
Yeah, but again, temporary storage containers could be bigger. We should really
Like
put in
shipping.
another line here, talking about move in, move out pods.
I just think pods, I think that's like a trademark term. And so
Pods
I
are-
think that's why we're
yeah,
calling
but
them
it's
something
called,
generic.
Move in, move out.
Because there's shipping
Yeah.
containers that are
People put
used
there
as
for longer.
as like tool sheds versus a pod which has a specific in-out use.
Right. I'm
I'll,
sure there's a legal term.
oh,
to that.
So I'd like to ask
I don't
the
think so.
two
I'm sure
folks
there's
who are
something
on
in
planning
Latin.
commission.
No,
Are you
no.
comfortable with this?
Well,
We
now,
can spend
I hear
pause
so
and all
many
things.
things being said, I have no idea what's,
I'm sorry, say that
I
again.
couldn't hear what you were saying over you're pointing at me, but I couldn't hear.
So we have two members of the planning commission here, Mr. Simley and Mr. Betcher. Are you comfortable with making that change?
Can you reiterate the change that I'm trying?
Let me try, since I'm probably gonna have to write it up, that for those things that are commonly known as pods, and I'll use some other language, move in and move out,
Temporary
units,
storage
temporary, we already have some temporary storage units in there.
That's what I think Terry was referring to in the language, because they're enclosed. So that was how he differentiated pods, umbrella of temporary storage containers versus dumpsters
Mhm.
and
Okay,
shipping containers. I
Right.
think, in my opinion, should fall probably under the same umbrella, but
well, for again, I'll figure out how to
yeah.
word it, but for the temporary storage units, the pods, they may be placed in the street upon approval of the administration.
With permission.
Because, I mean, there are other concerns other than, I think we talked about this too. There are other concerns other than just damage to the roadway. There's traffic and parking and
Yeah, I'm
things
fine
like
with leaving it to the administrator. I don't really remember that conversation too deeply from planning commission. I know there was a lot about the parking that it takes up and then the ability for vehicles to navigate around it because they are 8 feet wide. But yeah, I don't think, with the amount of work and advance notice that people are required to get for a planning commission meeting, if someone's trying to move quickly or move in and then has to wait a month before they can get one of these things delivered, I'm fine with the administrator. But that's my opinion as a planning commission member and as council member.
Can we do,
I would recommend that there be some guidelines around that though. Again, because this fell under the whole category, same as shipping containers, which come in different sizes and different weights, and sitting on the street could potentially do damage to the street. That there be some kind of.
yeah, could we put dimensions in there? Is that?
Well, that's why I'm thinking, like, whether it's, a maximum weight, maximum size, whatever, and a limit of time.
I think
So that it's like, like a 3-day period or, what have you.
Does this need to go back to
Because
planning
we have
commission?
had a problem in the village with pods sitting in parking spots and into the street for extended periods of time.
And
For
the-
weeks on end.
The express usage of that
Mr. Kennedy,
container.
she was,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I would suggest adding that the company should write a letter to the administration deeming that putting it on the ground or the private property is, no?
sorry, keep going.
Oh.
I know what you're gonna say.
Okay, is impossible. But that's one step to, they can't just say, I don't want to ruin my grass, and then unnecessarily burden the
I thought you were
administration.
gonna say something else, and in my head, I was shaking my head.
Okay.
Something else you were gonna say. I do it all the time.
I'm like, what, Matt? Or,
The best of us.
or that similarly,
I thought you were gonna ask that the companies spread a letter saying that the pod's not gonna damage the whatever.
oh,
that
no,
there's
I
no
just
way.
think like,
We'll never
they
do
need,
that.
the property owner should first have to be told, we can't put it here because
I
you live
mean,
on a hill,
Does
or,
this need to go back to planning commission at this point? No?
I would hate to see that over just
No,
pods.
I was wondering if, the spirit of what we're talking about, and we've already said that we could do the first reading with some of the additional language
Yes.
that's still being formulated.
Mhm.
My question is about what Mr. Simile raised, and because we haven't really flushed out that component of it. I think we've talked about everything else in terms of the language. Should we be putting in, I don't know if we could reasonably put in weight requirements, because that's really hard for a code enforcement person to be able to even discern.
Who's
But they
gonna
could
weigh
do-
it, though?
Right, that's what I mean, that's what I'm saying, that I don't know how we would do that, but we could do like, the code enforcement person go out and measure it and
So I
say, yeah,
think
this doesn't.
we need to keep it simple.
Yeah.
So first of all, they need to seek permission. That's number one. Number two is they need to tell us what they're doing. Number three is it needs to not be on our street. Those are the three things that we're trying to cover in this ordinance.
Well-
So when it comes to, and then that's where it splits off pod versus dumpster. We don't want open dumpsters sitting around. And then with the pods, we don't want them becoming furniture forever in people's yards. So,
Well, I thought the suggestion was we carve out an exception for what we all think we know is a pod, and that it can be in the street
Right.
after permission from the administration.
well,
And
The-
shipping containers should never be able to be in the street.
No, no.
We should divide those temporary storage.
Yeah.
containers.
Yeah,
isn't a pod defined in the front of the ordinance? I think it
No,
is.
I don't even think a pod is, there's no reference to a pod, because I agree, I think pod is
Like clean.
it's, well, clean, I wasn't gonna say Kleenex, but Xerox, whatever, yeah. So it's a term of a company's
It sounds like
product.
it's gonna be defined by use and then
Yeah.
reiterated by
I think,
size of container.
I'll take a crack. I think we all know what we're talking about. It's
We're
just a
just
matter
trying
of
to define
defining
use.
it for the purpose of the ordinance, and I'll take a crack at that.
And
I
one of the
just
things
looked at
that's,
some companies besides pods, and they call them portable moving containers or moving containers. They're kind of general term.
Yeah, I mean, there's, as I said before, there's kind of devil in the details, because it does have something to do with size, with weight, with length of time that it's gonna be there.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I thought was helpful that Mr. Fisher brought up, is if we had something in a language that was specifically mentioning quick turnaround, because what we're really looking at is people trying to move in someplace.
I mean,
Right.
temporary storage container, so typically pod units, that's where it starts off. But on the second page, any container, storage unit, or other portable storage designed and primarily used for the temporary storage of personal property and which is located outside an enclosed building. Temporary storage containers can also include shipping containers and portable storage devices, which may be closed and secured to temporary store reusable personal property.
It starts off with 27.
Were you reading from the ordinance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that 1123.481?
Yes. So in that definition, we're lumping in pods and shipping containers.
Right.
It's all getting shipping containers or anything similar to that, the moving containers.
I mean, when it comes down to it, how do you differentiate between a pod, again, overarching of what a pod is versus a shipping container?
So you could look up what the standard size is, A and B.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I just
don't know what
Googled and they're both the
I
same way.
mean, within the carve out, we can designate size.
Yeah.
And easy enough to measure, and purpose, size, time, and we're
They
done.
can also be shorter, there's all different sizes. Yeah, so I think adding in a dimension requirement for both, for under that temporary storage container.
And the width is gonna be the primary dimension that we need to examine. Because anything over a certain thing, it's gonna stick out in the street, so.
Yeah.
If it's
So,
12 feet long or 20 feet long, probably.
so I think Mr. Butler has sufficient direction from us. If we were to go ahead and do a first reading vote on it, and then at the second reading, when we have the details, like the spirit of this actually kind of put down, we can look at that and determine whether we're going to do a second vote on it or not. Does that sound like a path forward? All right, so I believe we need a roll call for the first reading. Is that right? Mr. Hirth?
Mr. Betcher,
Yes.
Ms. Cheney,
Yes.
Mr. Knipp,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Van Harnazes.
Thank you. Great.
All right.
That's where you get off easy, didn't you?
That was easy.
Now you got.
The other resolution is actually easier. It's approving the amounts and rates. This is something that's passed every year. The amounts and rates are provided to us by the auditor's office. It determines the taxes necessary to be levied by the council. It's a resolution, so it can it should pass this evening. Did you get the
Yes.
amounts and rates? Okay. So can I get a motion to read by title only, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 2022-30, resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Hamilton County Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor.
All those in, well, yeah.
Motion.
Is there any discussion? No discussion. May I have a roll call?
Mr. Betcher,
Yes.
Ms. Cheney,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Mr. Knipp,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
And that is all I have, sir.
Great. Mr. Van Harn, as I mentioned at the top of the meeting, was unable to be here this evening due to illness. I asked him whether he had any kind of a report this evening. There was no executive committee meeting tonight. He said he gave his report at the previous council meeting, had nothing more to add. So we'll just leave it at the next executive committee meeting will be on October 12th at 6 p.m. And with that, I will ask Mr. Betcher for an update on Planning Commission.
No report. Next meeting is tentatively Monday, October 3rd, pending any business.
Okay, great.
Yeah, in fact, at this point, we will not have a planning commission meeting on October 3rd. There's no pending business.
There you go.
All right.
So it would be November something up. Monday, November 7th, day before election day.
Great. If no other questions concerning that, I will ask Ms. Cheney to discuss community engagement.
Okay, the Community Engagement Committee did not meet in September. We canceled it. It will meet again October the 18th. And for my education report, PRM LSDMC met on September 14. There's 729 children at PRM right now. There is a bus driver shortage. Kids are on the bus up to an hour. The new addition to the building is on hold. There's no facilities manager right now and no facilities actually department. They're all gone. The new superintendent has taken over and she is from Detroit and she's catching up. So everything's been put on hold for that. And I wanted you to know that Gulf Manor's David Church, he's the IT tech at PRM, and he took it upon himself to make a library because the school didn't have a library. So he put out messages for people to donate books, new books. He set up an Amazon account so people could go in there and purchase books and have them sent to him. And that library looks so good, let me tell you. He's done a great job, and I just wanted you all to know that he did a great job with that.
Says Gulf Manor resident David Church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a wonderful service. Thank you to Mr.
Yeah.
Church.
Well, the kids are loving it too there. Volunteers are needed for PRM if anybody's interested for the kids for field trips and other things that they do. The volunteers, they're needed for who speak various languages are needed to help families and teachers make sure paperwork and documents are completed timely. They're developing a data log. So if you know someone, they can contact Monique Johnson at the school, and I have her email address if you want it. So they can be added to that database to help the school. And also, so you know, if you want to be a volunteer, you must fill out a form and get a background check and fingerprint. And that costs $45. And I'm pretty sure the school said they reimburse. Now, the Ohio school report cards are in. I don't know if anyone has read any of that or not. So I'm just going to briefly go over what's there. There's a new rating system. There's no more A to F scores. They're now 1 to 5. And 5, of course, is the best. And there's 5 areas. They get rated on achievement, progress, gap closing, graduation, and early literacy. So if you take all of CPS's scores for all 65 schools, in achievement, it was a 2. In progress, it's a 2. Gap closing was a 2. Graduation was 1. Early literacy was also 2 stars. 78.1% graduated in 4 years, 86.3 graduate in 5 years. For PRM, they scored a 1 on achievement, progress 3, gap is 3, and of course they don't graduate. Improving at-risk children, K-3, and that's for reading, that was a 1. In CPS schools, there are 35,860 children. Their attendance level is 84.5%. The graduation rate, I just told you, was 78.1. So I also saw the teachers. Their attendance level was 93.9%. Their average salary is $74,465. Their average years of experience is 15. Their senior teachers, and I'm not sure what that is, but that was a 33. Percent of teachers with a bachelor's degree is 99.9% overall. The high poverty schools, they have 99.9%, and the low poverty schools, 100% of teachers have bachelors. Percent of teachers with masters is 65.9 overall, 63.8 at high poverty schools, and 78.5 at the low. Inexperienced teachers are 13.4% overall, and then 13.5 at high poverty schools, and low poverty schools at 7.2. For the principal, it's 13.9% overall inexperienced, and 16.7 for high poverty, and low poverty is 9.4. And I thought this was also interesting. For CPS schools, the economic disadvantage children are 82%. That's 29,393 children. I thought that. And I have additional information if anybody's interested in seeing it, talking about it.
That's a fantastic report, Ms. Cheney. Thank you
Oh,
for
wait,
the
I'm
data.
not, yeah, I'm done. Sorry.
No, that's really great information. Really
And if-
appreciate that.
If you want to go in and look at the schools, it's the Ohio, oh, darn, I wrote it down. Easy for me to say where I wrote it, right? Where I put it. Oh, well, it's so, I wrote it and I don't know where I put it. Anyway, it's the Ohio Education,
Ohio Department of Education.
yeah, Department of
Yeah.
Education, that's
Got
it.
it.
Thank you.
Very good.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's if you put that into Google, you'll get the Ohio.
It comes up, because that's what I put in.
Yeah.
I put in report cards,
All right.
Ohio for 2022.
Awesome. Thank you
Yeah.
for your service again. That's awesome.
Oh, and also from being at PRM and talking to the principal there, they expected these low scores because of the COVID,
Yeah.
2 years behind. So this was kind of expected. And the best school, if you want to know, with 5 ratings, Walnut Hills. And the Silverton School, which is an option for kids here in what is that? Woodmont. Yeah, that's it. They call it Woodward Academy now. Those also had low scores. Montessori, Pleasant Ridge Montessori was higher. So it makes me kind of believe that's why parents want them to go to Pleasant Ridge Montessori versus Silverton or Woodward for the education, even though some kids just don't do well in Montessori.
All right. Any further questions for Ms. Cheney? Thank you, Ms. Cheney. Anything for communication, Ms. Snyder?
Nope.
All right. Anything for nonprofits, Mr. Fisher?
Just a big thank you to all those that did and put in so much work into the C-75 to make it such a success for all communities and all walks of life. It was a nice big mix crowd here, and everybody really appreciated it.
Yeah, here. Thank you, Ms. Cheney.
Mayor, I did forget something. I wanted to thank Ashley Snyder for handling community engagement the entire time I was not here. We really appreciate you. Did a great job.
Thank you, my pleasure, and I'm happy you're back.
Yeah, but you're not off the hook.
Mr. Betcher, do you have a finance committee report?
Finance Committee met very briefly this evening since Mr. Krinoff is out. Mr. Hurth was able to review the financial packets, and they are firming up the transfer to the STAR fund in the days coming. The report.
Very good. Next, do you have the date of the next meeting? Finance committee,
It
let's,
is
I have it here, just flip to the
October
next page.
24th.
Yes, very good. And as far as, unless anybody has any other announcements, I'll go ahead and do our final announcements and then ask for a motion to close.
So
Or-
just a quick note, the next council meetings are on Wednesday, October 12th, because that is another holiday week.
Okay.
So
So that means the executive committee on October 12th, Wednesday, October 12th will be at 6 PM. Council at 7 PM or as soon as the executive committee ends. And to reiterate Mr. Betcher's statement, October 24th, Wednesday, October 24th will be the next finance committee meeting at 6 PM with council immediately following at 7 PM or on the close of that finance committee meeting. And our next planning commission meeting is November 7th. Any other announcements?
If I may.
Yes.
So as you all know, I've surrendered my resignation from council effective at the end of the day, Friday. We close on our new house and our next chapter Friday afternoon. So just want to thank all of you for your service to the village, your friendship over the last couple of years. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve in the village and see how far it's come. It truly is a great village, and I know that it has the right stuff to become even greater. So thank you.
Thank you. And the proclamation, I wanted to hint you, I do not have it framed yet. I'll make sure that working together, we will get you a framed version of it.
And this is Mr. Betcher's resignation letter. So I'll hold on to this. And Ms. Snyder and Ms. Cheney are his designees. So they will need to fill the position within 30 days of his date of resignation.
What was your day of resignation? Is it today?
Friday.
This Friday, sorry.
So you have until Halloween.
Yeah,
I was just
really.
gonna say. Oh, spooky.
So there will be, immediately following this meeting, we will be having a celebration and honoring Mr. Betcher's service here in the municipal hall. So all are welcome to that. And with that being said, do we have a motion to close?
Motion to adjourn.
Yay,
Is there a
the
second?
last one.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for your service to the village.
Some of the work
Sad
of
name.
this is
Very sad.
I made it.
Anyone else free, Rob?
I was frustrated about how fast I needed to get moving.
Matt, are you hosting all of us for Thanksgiving?
Copy
Not for Thanksgiving, but I'll host you.
here.
You guys bring out that new ball.
I'll just put it in.
Very good. Thank you for dealing with that last time. Thank you for helping me with the last meeting.
Yeah.
No, that's all.
So you were people don't worry, but I think you were 300 to 400 early.
Yeah, and then,
Easily, and then I think you probably like 2 to 3 in the afternoon.
yeah, I mean, it like ebbs and flows, it's just so hard to tell what's hard. Definitely more adults.
Stephanie, we know you have to shake up the committees. We don't have a finance chair.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm aware of that, and I was going to hopefully be able to talk to you
Yeah.
and Ashley about
Well,
your
it was
choices
this-
and
Kind
suggestions.
of hit all the ground by the band.
What's that?
I can tell you right now.
It was doing like
Put me back on
separated.
Yeah.
finance chair.
A little
Yeah.
bit.
It's so cool.
Awesome.
That would be okay.
I
She did a
I
great
thought
job.
of, yeah, I thought of that, but I was deferring to hear from you guys. What you wanted to do. I think that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to go. I've been through longer than anybody.
Yeah, I would
Right.
feel comfortable with
Missing
it.
that, and that was a godsend.
Yeah.
This knowledge.
I would have said,
Unless we can find a council member with finance.
yeah, I think that's just,
Yeah.
some people like
I know,
purple, some people like color green.
You know what
That's
I'm
that work.
I know a number of people in the community, but I would prefer the chair
It'll
to
be
be
interesting.
like I said.
Oh, yeah, chair, I meant.
Yeah, there's a.
Yeah, I
Let's
kinda,
all talk about
well,
that.
some of that kind of
Number
works
of
down.
folks that, you know, I haven't talked to them.
Well,
because
the
it
bandits
wasn't
know what
my
service is
certain-
doing.
Yeah, it's okay to tell us.
It ultimately
So we
worked
can
out because it
consider
kind of
everybody.
Right.
drew the kids in
Well,
over here, so they don't
Yeah,
go over
I will
here.
let them know that I'm
Little.
guessing. I would prefer to let them know.
So, yeah, it worked out in the band for.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, that's nice, yes. Definitely let us know.
Kind of turned into field.
Me too.
Where me too.
Yeah.
So they could be out of ice.
Everybody.
and they were on ice, and then we were out of water.
Yeah,
So,
I was planning on being that person, but.
Yes, well, I started off trying to get the beer stuff together, but.
Yeah, he used to be
the
a
band
council.
guys and the service
Lived down the
guys
street.
were glad. He showed interest. And everybody
Oh,
just
really?
kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, as Ron
I
said,
remember.
the band wrangler.
Yeah.
Left.
But you had a turn.
Yeah, it kind of worked, except if
I
we
can't, I
didn't
don't
have
think
enough,
I served.
we hit it up in the
I
beer
did
booth, but
23 years, so
you
it's been a
kind
long
of
time.
get pulled away.
Unless he was
Literally
on
every
there.
5
when I was
minutes.
there.
Luckily,
I noticed
we
there's
get
some
some groups
Can't remember.
volunteer.
other room.
Smurfs?
Yeah.
They kind of.
Oh, because they're not in there?
Rock chef.
Steve,
Oh,
how
hey,
you
guys,
doing?
you're good.
How you
So,
doing?
I'm sick. Good, how are you? Yeah, it turned out real good. I mean, I think we're gonna, Roger and I was talking about kind of the next level of Go Golf Manor, which is basically kind of stepping into issues and doing more with grants. So.
Finally.
It's not official yet, but I.
No, I've always wanted that. I've always wanted to.
Yeah, because it's it can be hard to work with it. And.
I think his downfall is he doesn't,
Yeah.
he goes off on his own thing. He doesn't really consult with anyone. He thinks he's consulting, but he just goes. He has his vision, he has his vision on his
Conversation
own.
with him
He goes
goes
with
good.
it.
My conversation with him is because he wants it to be a very collaborative thing. He wants the board to make the decisions and then to facilitate. And to provide a broader rule. It hasn't really been working yet. Really, you need the guy at the top to kind of have the vision, provide an outline, let the board have a say in the outline. But also have the board help move the details.
It's a little nippy in there.
Yeah. He got sick. He just kind of.
I think it's 15 degrees warmer here. Or 28.
Significant.
Why is the door closed?
Because
I think it's warmer outside than it is in here.
I think she's got.
I want to look at that art stuff too.
Roger made those?
He didn't make them, yeah, he had them.
Oh, they're so cute.
Well, we weren't doing anything until 2:75.
It's a little colder in the car.
How we doing?
I wonder.
That's the Cheese Bakery. Madisonville, the Cheese Bakery. Now this is the bakery.
He's got ideas. He's
Yeah,
more
they
of
don't
a.
figure out it's
Yeah,
And they have the best soft serve ice cream.
Everybody was in trouble.
Yeah, very close to it.
Perfect. I know, it's so good.
Okay, sounds good.
Can't wait. And I'm a little frustrated.
Are you gonna be here in the morning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I already have a list.
Excellent.
I did.
I was working on mine for council.
You want this?
And those are foundational.
I really would love to be here, but I'm gonna have to be here by Zoom.
Oh, bummer.
You want the
Maybe
what?
Zoom in the office?
Yeah.
Thank you, Lil.
I'm good, I help myself.
Why do they say smart?
They're kosher.
It's Snickers.
Oh.
It helps reinforce the
Oh.
foundation.
Get it, Snickers, sure.
Oh. Nice.
Anybody else?
Okay, so
Yes, anybody want?
Yes,
Linda, she's very talkative. She wants to do something in the park. We want to do like a talent show or something.
Wow.
Her son is a
please
big creative
describe
person.
to me the wine list.
Is he the artist?
It's
super young kitty.
I think it's
Yeah, no, I will take that advice. We'll take down and
Yeah, it's really good.
Right.
They're really light. Oh, Meyer, what?
The Smirks.
No, he's not, he doesn't do it like this.
Yeah, the shower.
I would love to see that.
It was nice and quiet.
My waste of time.
Well,
Okay.
unless you count that, balcony. Just the one talking about. Yeah.
I love
I think it's very relaxing. It'll be a fun and.
Kind of like a, yeah.
Videos earlier. There's much higher north though, where, I mean, Jim and Gerald's worried their house.
Although I don't know how long it would have
Just
taken
drive back
for
Jim's
me to
leaving
make the
tonight at 2
connection
a.m.
up to
to drive
Barbara.
down there.
Oh, sparkling
Before you get
cinder.
the house to go on.
So you want to see this?
I like it. I love to see every lunch.
I'm trying to figure it out.
Yes.
And the stone.
There's suitcases?
So those have been there, nice
Oh,
These little things.
That's sad.
What happened?
She only decorates.
Okay,
you know,
perfect.
pebbles.
Okay. Shoot, I'm
A
not
little bit
like
of Christmas.
that.
I like simultaneously, the other one too, and because I have a pair of
Houses. Well, you don't want to have anybody.
Well.
Okay.
But they're not willing to help.
The cheese bakery.
So,
You see their house?
so what's it?
Sorry, I didn't.
I know, should leave it.
Although
I
I.
think they should bring that. Well, they bring that house over there before all of Golf Manor.
It's bigger than.
Well, if they brought all three.
Yes.
Oh, you said it's something.
It's much better than a village if someone.
It was built in 1850. Some additions on it.
Am I assuming a family themed?
Oh my God, I don't know how it is.
Village, super.
A lot of people seem to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Oh.
A lot less.
So, like, if you're here, and Devonta's here, you're actually hearing them put a bell
I
on.
can see. All the
Have a lot of reservations.
Paging, Devonta's paging Devonta.
Kind of looking for it.
How many, is that like 5? The main house is 7.
Better than
Shared house and an apartment with a small garage.
I hesitated last time. Trying to research
So all the stuff from your little house will take.
Really? They're like.
Oh, sorry, you were a wizard. No, not wizard.
Ironically.
Okay. I'm sorry, I did not mean to.
Sooner than later.
I'm a little embarrassing to come on.
But my point is.
With Hammer House. I did not take advantage of it as much as I should have.
I had an indoor pool
Money.
at one point.
That was for the highest.
To have me.
The last
Nobody's worked that.
Good for you.
Art gallery.
Yeah.
I like to call it Manor.
It's cool. There were so many good stories here, but nobody really done it kind of later from long.
Sean, you took that, please?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's from the-
Yeah, there's something like that.
In Madisonville, that she